Good morning. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Journey Live. I'm Natalie Fairchild with Natural Hair today, and this is
Mardig noches. Welcome, everyone.
welcome. I can't believe it's June,
That it is.
and us in the Pacific Northwest are enjoying the sun. And I'm hoping that Mother Nature doesn't come in and give us
Ruin it all.
June and gloom, and then we won't see the sun till July. But in the meantime, we are enjoying it immensely.
There
All
we
right,
are.
Martin. So what are we doing today? I'm handing over the reins.
Well, so here's what I thought we would do today. You are someone who's gone through a lot of the journey, that journey that we keep referencing. So I figured we'll just ask you some questions. It'll be
Perfect.
interesting to know what your experiences were getting started, beginning to expand, growing a team, and then getting to this place of business expansion where it feels like you have to do it all over again. And yeah, that's basically the journey, right? So
Yeah.
I want to know from you, what was that like going in. But before we do that, I want to make sure everybody knows, if they want to ask questions, there's multiple ways to do it. They can leave it in the comments. Even if you're watching this on a repeat, you can leave questions in the comments there, and we'll pick them up and we'll use them for the other shows. And also, if you want to be on camera, if you're one of those brave souls who wants to come in and have a brief conversation with us, we're happy to make that happen. It takes a couple steps, but it's easy to do.
Maybe they
But
could get
that's
some free coffee if they put themselves out there.
sure. That sounds good. I'll take free coffee. I know you don't drink coffee.
I don't.
That's
Surprise.
Natalie's little secret. But yes, so that's what I figure we would do today. I feel like if I take somebody through that process of relating to you, we probably touch on all of the possible groups that are listening, right? People who are maybe considering starting something, people
Mhm.
who are in the midst of beginning something, or in that weird place where you just talk about beginning something a lot but you haven't. And then there'll be others that are already in the middle of it, in the thick of
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
and are trying to figure out how to do what they have to do. So
Absolutely.
why don't we start by the beginning?
Okay. What was the
For
first?
you, what
Yeah.
was the first indicator that you had actually gotten something started?
The first indicator,
Yes.
like the moment I said, "Holy cow, we're doing this."
Holy cow, I mean business, right? Because
I'm
again,
in
there's a
business.
lot of
Yeah.
talk that precedes that
Yeah.
usually for people.
Yeah. So I think, and I've talked a lot about this, but I think my situation was a little bit different in that there wasn't a lot of talk about it. There was something has to change talk, and an opportunity arose in front of us. And we were like, okay, yes, let's do this. And so it was a lot of leaps of faith into we have to get our flexibility and balance of life back, and this is an avenue, and let's go for it. And I didn't know how to say espresso correctly, but I, for some reason, thought that this was a way that Jim and I in the beginning could balance each other out. We could manage his MS and what his needs were. And so we jumped into it. I think once we brought it back to the Pacific Northwest, where I'm from Colorado, that's when it became super real. Like, it's go time. Like, I got to figure out how to make these drinks really well, and we got to start selling, and we have to put ourselves out there. And we don't have a ton of money in the bank. Like, this is do or die type of thing.
So which one was it though for you? Was it the okay, we are having an event, or I need to go talk to people about having an event, or like what was it that you went, oh crap, I'm in business? Because again,
Yeah.
like there's a lot of prep. There's
Yeah.
always talking about it and what I
Yeah.
need to do and I need to learn all this. It's like
Oh, there
none
was
of that is being in business, right? I always tell people that research is not business.
right, right. Yeah. So it was we need money in the bank, we need to start marketing, and this is on us, and we need to get comfortable with the service that we are selling so we can get out there. And I was first out on events, so I had to reinvent that mentality in my head because I'd been an entrepreneur at home with the girls. And so now mommy's getting out there and London's starting kindergarten. And she's like, I don't want daddy to do my hair. And so, it was a real huge shift where daddy used to go to the corporate office and I was home, and in between I do my little stuff. And so it was a real switch for the whole family. Um, and all of it was exciting. There was passion and there was energy behind it and excitement that kind of carried us. And
Mhm.
obviously, there was also a lot of fear.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Excitement and fear are two things that are commonly found together in extreme sports.
Okay. Well, I'm not very athletic, but
But if you think about it, right? Okay, those people who climb mountains or jump off of planes or do things like that, like excitement and fear, that's literally what they're looking for. What was that like for you? Was it like a good feeling? Was it a super scary feeling that you had to overcome daily? Like, where were you about this whole combination of excitement and fear?
I think I knew it could work. So I think I was more excited and more focused on what had to be done than focused on the fear. There was
Mm.
always that asshole in my head saying, "Holy shit, what are you doing?" But I I believe I was more it was our ticket. We'd been given a ticket to try and reinvent our life, and we had to do that. So, I was excited. I really feel like things were laying out for us, like
Mhm.
how we sold the house, how we found this house, how we figured out the business. Everything was kind of just lining up. So I really felt like there was a lot of energy and there was a lot of signs for me that this was the right thing to do.
So, did it feel like Providence like that a lot? Like everything is sort of like lining up? Or is that how you view it now that you can look back?
No, I remember feeling that things were lining up for us to move back here and have this business. I mean, it was miraculous, really. So I did feel like that for sure during the time. And I think that that's what carried me and kind of reduced some of the fear. But the fear ebbs and flows because as a business, you're running into all kinds of hurdles,
Mhm.
challenges, things you have to figure out. This isn't working, all that stuff. So, yeah, it fear was definitely there, but yeah, I remember it being a very miraculous time in my life. However, side note, I put so much energy and focus into buying the house that I'm in right now while still having a mortgage, and this was 2006, 2000, beginning of 2007,
Mm.
and which, you can't do anymore really unless you're fully funded. Um, and so, yeah, my mom was like, just get a for sale sign in your house in Colorado. And I'm like, I just got to finish the paperwork and get this other house bought. And then we sold the Colorado house in 14 days for full price. And we told them when we wanted to move out, and they bought a bunch of our furniture, and like things were just like lining out. But I forgot where my point was that I was really going to with all of this. It'll come back. Senior
Okay.
moment.
Speaking of moments, so you said that opportunity arose, right? Like you
Mhm,
found an opportunity. So
mhm.
clearly you were already looking for something,
I knew something had to change.
right? So you need, and how did you know that one was it?
Um, it's a great question. A really good question. How did I know? I just I don't know. I felt like it was I'm gonna get woo-woo here, but I felt like it was a universal moment, just like a that's it. And I went home to Jim and I wasn't sure what he was gonna say, and decisions can kind of be hard for him. And he said, that sounds good. And it was like, all right, we're doing this. We're gonna make espressos.
Espressos for everyone.
So yeah, I think it was just a very knowing. A lot of there was a lot of thought. Obviously the thought was, okay, we got to do something. This isn't working anymore. What are we going to do? And I think when Jim said, I think we need to move back to the Pacific Northwest, my whole like possibilities like opened up. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is
This is something you
great.
wanted.
This is something that I always wanted, um, but didn't think Jim would ever be okay with it because he hated the weather. Go figure. um,
It's not
and
alone.
and when he came open to that idea, it's like the world of possibility opened up.
So there was something you wanted that happened to align with the business you were starting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you call it universe. I call it, you know, alignment of alignment of intentions, right? You actually
Alignment of
wanted
intention.
something and it just happens to fit with
Yeah.
something that you're starting. And that's missing for a lot of people. You know,
Hmm.
I feel like a lot of people talk about starting a business because they need money
Mm.
instead of starting a business because the
Hmm.
lifestyle of it, the
Hmm.
freedom of it, because of the type of energy that it takes that is different than the energy that it takes to work for somebody else.
Hmm.
Those things are what you're aligning with. If you're
Hmm.
aligning with making money,
Hmm.
that may not be a great experience, at least not off the bat,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of scenarios where like you'll hear stories of people who did off jobs because they needed money. I've done that.
Hmm.
You
Right.
needed money, right? You need to pay the rent, you need to feed your kids. In none of those, or very seldom you hear somebody say, "Ah, turn into my passion, and that's what I do now." Right?
Totally.
That's not usually how that's going to to go. So if somebody's thinking about starting something, you may want to try to align more with the what is it about doing a business? What is it
Hmm.
about being an entrepreneur that is aligned with who you are or align or that you can align with? Because you also don't have to already be an entrepreneur in order to align with the entrepreneurial lifestyle.
Right. And I did during this time when I was home with the kids realize that was an entrepreneur. I was like, "Oh, like I
Tell me.
love being a mom and I just keep starting little things and taking risks and putting myself out there. Why do I feel like I need to do this?" And yeah, and so it was aligning, and I knew that I we couldn't put Jim in another corporate job, and I knew I did not want to go back to the corporate world. The last position I was in a cubicle, and
I love those cubicles.
I felt like I was gonna die, you know? So, I knew that that wasn't the path for me.
So, what would you say to someone that knows they're going to die in a cubicle, but are also terrified of everything else that's out there? You know, for whatever reason,
Mhm.
because of
Mhm.
everything we're told about it, or because
Mhm.
they inherently have this idea that is super hard or beyond their means. What would you say to that person that's living in that conundrum?
Um, I would say get quiet with it. Sit with it. Think about it. ask, what is it that you really want? I'd say reach out to people like yourself, Martin, or, other coaches, therapists, whatever. Get some different insights, but just be still with it and figure out why that is, and which path is going to be harder for you to live with.
Well, the dying in the cubicle sounds like harder.
For sure, for sure. And it doesn't mean that the other path was easy, for sure. I think you're really putting yourself out there when you start a business. I
Hmm.
mean, I remember people talking to my mom just going, "I don't know if this is gonna work for them." And my mom had no doubt. I talk about her a lot. Um, and I had no doubt, but many people did. Many
Okay.
people did.
So let's talk about that. Were they talking to you directly and saying, "Hey, I have doubts,"
No.
or just talking about you?
Yeah, or they'd tell my parents, or yeah. Yeah. Yeah, their accountant, who was our accountant at the time, um, said, "I'm nervous that this is not gonna work."
We should give him a call now. Uh, what what did that do for you?
Um, I just kept on my path. I just kept on my path, and as I say that, I realize that I do that often. I just keep on my path. When I say that, I think of times of different awards I've been up for, or, different things you can nominate your company for, Best of Vancouver. And sometimes I just don't love putting my energy there because I'm just on my path. I'm just doing my thing. And if I'm recognized from the outside organically, awesome. But I can't go after that negative, and I can't go after trying to get rewarded and
Mhm.
validated. I just there's only so much I can do. And I just got to keep on my path in the way I do it. And the same thing goes for my schedule. When I went home every day at 3:30 or worked 4 days a week, and I'd hear people working till 7 at the office or 11, and I kind of have this twinge of, "Oh, I'm not doing enough," or, "Why are they able to do that and I just can't?" And or I'd be much further along. I'm just like, "No, like this is my path. Like this is my recipe. I got to stick with my recipe." And so, yeah. So
feel
that's
like
what
that's
comes to mind.
feel like that's the business version of survival guilt.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
How so?
Well, if you think about it, right? Like if you're in a car accident with a bunch of people and they get hurt and you don't, you have all this illogical thoughts, like why do I deserve this? Or
Yeah.
people who are in business have that sort of thinking occasionally, and it's usually around the time, right? That I should be doing more, that I should
Hmm.
be up to this
Hmm.
level by now, or something like that.
Or I'm
So
not enough, or I don't do enough, or
exactly.
things like that. Hmm. Yeah. And I've learned to accept that now, but it's been a muscle memory. It's been a muscle to exercise and to be okay with. Um, because every time I heard that, there was a little asshole in my head again.
It'll never go away.
Mhm.
So speaking of timelines and what you're supposed to have done, when you started and you looked at all of the stuff you had to do,
Mhm.
did it look overwhelming? Did it look like this is just so much shit that I have to take care of that I don't know if it'll be enough? I don't know if I will be enough. Like, what was your relationship to what I called like the mountain?
Yeah, yeah. Um, at that time, I had a partner in the business, Jim. So we definitely divided out what we were good at and what we weren't good at. Um, and he tended to do all of the, like, getting the licenses and the health department and stuff like that. That was much more difficult to me. And, I did a lot of the marketing, and we did some of that together as well. We still have clients from the very beginning, which is so cool. Um and yeah, I think it's an ebb and flow. You get to a certain level and you're like, okay. And then about, a week later, you get to it, you realize, oh my gosh, this is not working. And you have to come up with a new plan or a new system.
Mhm.
And as you're growing too, things change. It's very simple when you have 14 to 25 events a month. Now there's 170 to 270 events a month. So it's it changes constantly. So it's very similar to morning MS di- the the resolution of, you know ha- having MS in our family with Jim, which a lot of people know about. It was like you get to a new normal, and then things would change and you'd have to adjust and get to a new normal, and things would change and you'd have to adjust again. So it was very similar to that. There was constant change and constant growth. Now I really like change. So, and I like things to like work on and get my hands dirty and make a new process and see that process working. I get a lot of satisfaction out of that.
Mhm.
But it was, yeah, I can get overwhelmed very easy, very easy.
So this relationship you have with change, is that something that you would say is innate or learned for you?
I would say it's innate for sure. Yeah.
So you're comfortable with stuff moving around and stuff being different and stuff.
Yeah. But I'm also overwhelmed by seeing that something has to be done. And then I work on it, and then there's a release, and then it gives me more energy
Hmm.
and excitement and passion. So if I redo the furniture in the house, like I can get some amazing energy for at least a really good solid week out of that. So I would say it's innate.
Come redo my furniture.
Yeah.
So I want to circle back to something you said a second ago, just because I feel like it's important nowadays. Probably going to be a long-winded question, but so statistically, the entry point of people into entrepreneurship is going down in age. Okay, so more and more younger and younger people are dipping their toes in entrepreneurship.
I can see that.
And we were talking about a second ago of like all those negative comments, or like whatever people
Mhm.
have to say about somebody else's journey, which is
Mhm.
interesting that they'll
Mhm.
have something to say.
Mhm.
But as a parent, and as a parent of
Mhm.
somebody who is testing out entrepreneurship,
Mhm.
what do you feel like is the right way to approach it with them, right? Like in order to both encourage them
Mhm.
and protect them, which is the thing that
Mhm.
we always try to do,
Yeah.
right? It's a
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah, that's interesting. I went to the doctor the other day, and the doctor started talking about her daughter and how, yeah, she's just, because I think she asked me what I did, and I said I was business owner. And that's what prompted it. And she's like, "Yeah, she just goes out for everything." And she's going out for the talent show, and I'm like, "Awesome, but you might need to practice something for the talent show." Like, we have that angst, right? Like, you need to do something different or more. And I told her, I said, I was that kid. I went out for everything
Mm,
and was just okay at everything except for the leadership part, which now I can see. And, putting together events, now I can see that. Um, and you just got to let her do it and let her make mistakes and leave your comments to minimal. You know, she's got, she appears to be an entrepreneur, and she's trying things out and are comfortable to a certain level that she's trying things out. I mean, I had some friends that were highly into drama, and I was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
that sounds like fun. I'll try out for the play." Well, I didn't make it, and I was like, "All right, whatever, I don't even know why I did that." Or I'd get the participation award because I wasn't the best volleyball player, but I was the motivator and like the joyful one and the enthusiastic one. And it makes me laugh because I don't know why I did this, but this is me. This is what I do. And so my advice to her was just take a step back, let them do what they're doing. And we always want them to make mistakes when they're young. And then when they're in their early 20s, we'd rather them make those mistakes now when it's not as costly than when they're 35 or 40, when they do have a mortgage and two kids. So
Right.
let them be. And when they ask for advice, give it to them. But zip your mouth and sit on your hands and watch it evolve, because we always say, like, there's growth in mistakes, right? You need to make mistakes.
Absolutely.
But man, when it's your child and you're watching it, it's really tough, really tough. But the good thing about that is the pressure's off you. That's the good news and the bad news, because by not being able to really get involved, if you're trying to be super healthy,
Mhm.
you're not involved. You're not responsible for it. As long as they are, you know, paying rent if they're living at home, if that's what you want, or being able to pay their bills and being self sufficient, they'll figure it out. So that's
Well,
my advice.
yeah, and the paying rent part is, part of the learning.
Absolutely. I don't know if you saw my video of my message to high school graduates and college graduates and their parents. If you're worried about your kid getting a job, make sure rent starts by July 1st.
They'll get a job real quick.
They'll get a job real quick. Yeah.
Yep, and they'll keep it.
Hmm.
So, okay, you were sort of made for this by the sound of it. Okay, what about the people who are not, or they feel like they're not? Do you think that there's hope for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I almost put that back on you because you have the answer. You know the answer already. I mean, I think the answer, of course, there is. Um, you have to surround yourself by the right people. You have to know where your weaknesses are. You have to be willing to pull that expertise in, put your ego aside, and not feel like you need to know everything. And it has to be something that you're passionate about in one way or the other. And you have to redefine what success is for you. We've talked about that a lot. Like, is it this amount of money? Or
Absolutely.
or is it a sustainable amount of money where you have the life you want
And you're
and you're
happy.
doing something you love and you're happy? Um yeah, so it's all defining it. I feel like the ego gets involved a lot. And I think that's where being an entrepreneur can be really, really hard. I was talking to Brandon Laws. We recorded a podcast, and he's with Zenium, and I said kind of what I just said, and he said, that's a great point, because the owner of Zenium started Express Personnel Services, which is
Hmm.
nationwide,
Huge.
and Stoller Winery, and he's like he's a great guy. He's a smart guy, but he's like, I wouldn't say he's like so intelligent. And he says that he attributed it to putting the right people around him. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, and obviously it was a loaded question, but
that you knew the answer to.
yes, but that's the answer for everyone. I
Hmm.
think that what's rescuable out of the story you told on going for everything
Hmm.
is that what makes an entrepreneur is somebody who's willing to make mistakes. right? It's
Mhm.
somebody who's willing to try some things out. And I
Mhm.
always tell people that that is the way to get into it, right?
Mhm.
You gotta
Mhm.
try something out, small at that, and make a mistake, because
Mhm.
that's the only ones you're going to learn. When stuff just sort of like magically aligns and things
Mhm.
sort of go really well,
Absolutely.
usually occurs in a blip, right? And you will
Mhm.
eventually hit the wall, and there will be things that you're
Mhm.
going to have to repair. I mean, you're talking about repair. This is not going to
Mhm.
be just navigate. You're going to have to repair
Right.
some shit,
Right.
because stuff is going to go flat out wrong. And those are the real moments of learning. Those are the real moments where something is going to stick, and you're going to not do it again or do it better the next time.
For sure. So here's another point as you're talking about this is I grew up in a family where we loved hand-me-downs,
Mhm.
but there we were never without. We were middle class. My sister, my siblings were sent to, different, Washington D.C. or Japan on exchange, or I got to go to London on exchange. In college, my parents paid for my college, like as it came due. They just made it happen. There wasn't a
Mhm.
savings for it. Um, but all three of us know the value of money and stuff, and we didn't have the brand new Nikes when they came out, like such and such family down the street. And I think that was such a gift because things didn't have to be so easy for us that when things got tough in business or when we first moved out on our own and had $35 left to our name till payday and one package of ramen noodles,
Yes.
we could get through it. It was uncomfortable, but we could get through it because we weren't used to having the absolute best brand new stuff, brand new car at 16. And I feel like it's such a disservice to our kids to do that because this is what happens. Because if they're expecting everything to go like their perfect
Magic.
childhood went, it's not. And then they're going to falter and be a little upset and fail and
Yeah.
not know what to do with it. So
Yeah,
that's
but
why
they're
we
in
need
for
to
some
fail.
surprises.
Yeah, some big ones. And sometimes their ego can't handle that because they've been propped up on a pedestal for quite a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I've always I do it less and less because I don't live in LA anymore. But when I was in LA, doing the actor references made a lot more sense for people. But I used to tell them that being an entrepreneur is like being an actor. You know, you need to rehearse being silly. You need to rehearse being uncomfortable. You need to rehearse putting yourself in these positions
Mhm,
constantly where you're not comfortable. It's just
mhm,
not the
mhm,
the place of ease that
mhm,
most of us seek. Right, like that's the default. You want to just be comfy,
mhm,
and as an
mhm,
entrepreneur, you kind of seek out situations where that's not going to be the case.
mhm.
But then you get used to it. It gets more common. It becomes the way you are.
Yeah,
And
you
then
get stronger. It doesn't get easier, you get stronger.
well, you get stronger, and then you seek them
Mhm.
out more, right? And then you
Yeah.
seek out bigger ones. And that's basically the the layer building that comes into being in business.
Mhm. And now we'll get to this, but now I'm in an uncomfortable position right now.
Yeah.
Here I am.
Well, let's talk about uncomfortable positions. When What about hiring the first employee? Because that's another big milestone for a business, right? Uh,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
was going through your mind when you first decided that you needed to hire somebody, and then when you actually did?
Yeah. Well, it came pretty quickly because we had a lot of warm marketing done before we got here and it kind of took off a little faster. So it was like, oh crap. So I begged my sister to come work for us because that was easy.
Okay.
Um and then I quickly needed to hire another person. Um and did that. And the first couple employees weren't hard. When you start having 5 and 10 and 15, you're like, oh my. And I've told this story before, but one time I had 11 employees, and we're an event business. So people are coming and going all the time. It's very rare all 11 of them are together unless we're having a team meeting. And 11 of them were in the office at the same time. And I was so overwhelmed. I mean, I had this physiological response.
What was the thought?
Oh my God, I'm responsible for feeding all these mouths. There was a high responsibility that was overwhelming. And I'm like, I'm going to go walk to the mini mart and get myself a Diet Pepsi and just breathe really quick. I remember it was just really crazy to me that I was like, holy crap, all these people are relying on me to keep their families going. And it was just, that was when it was really, I think, overwhelming. But I think in the beginning it was exciting because it was like, oh my gosh, we need to hire people. Like, there's a demand. People are, we need to buy another cart. We need to buy that kind of thing. So it was kind of exciting in the beginning, and then it was like, oh my God.
So you were perceiving it as good signs at the beginning.
Mhm. Mhm.
What was it for you? Was it that I physically cannot do what's required, hence I need another person? Or was it foresight of, look, it's going in a certain direction and we're going to need other people and it's going to take time to get them prepped?
Yeah, I wish it was that. I'm kind of the person that, and Tristan hates this because he's more methodical. But I remember when we brought on the omelet bar as a new service, we had sold it before we had it all figured out. It's like, if you want shit done in your house, freaking plan a party. It'll get done.
Yep.
So sometimes that's my creative philosophy on things, but just knowing how things were being scheduled, that we knew pretty quickly we'd have to have another person, because if somebody
Yes.
wanted 2 events in one day at the same time, we were out, and Jim couldn't do them. So it was just me. So we knew we needed another employee very quickly. And then it was a little nerve-wracking because we needed more. So we had one espresso bar cart, and our first paying cart was August 31st, 2007, and by December we had a total of 5 carts. Now, it's not because we needed all 5 every single day of the week. That would been our dream. It's because
There were
one.
times that you did need them all at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah. So it was like, oh my gosh, we've got 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out. We're booking these carts, and then we're going to figure out how to make sure we have everything we need to do them.
Right. But that what you said about that reminded me of something I also tell people. Uh, it's if you've ever been called a troublemaker, you're probably an entrepreneur.
Well, look at Candace's comment. Put that one up.
Let's see.
That's a metaphor for creating crisis, plan a party.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so that's
She's
funny.
following the thread, right? Because you said that you thrive in crisis.
I know. I know. So that I'm kind of cringing, kind of laughing, kind of full circle moment.
It's true. You keep
I
planning
create it.
parties.
I create it. Yeah. Yeah. For
But
sure.
yeah, so one of the things that I make sure people understand is that part of your job at the helm of a business, and when I say at the helm, I mean even if it started today, you're at the helm of that business, right?
Mhm.
Uh, is to create problems. If you're a
Okay, we
business
need
owner,
a
yeah,
different word for that, Martin.
nope. I want you to stick with that. I want you to create.
Why?
I want
I
you to
don't want
create problems
problems.
because problems
Oh.
require solutions.
What about challenges? Do challenges require solutions?
Challenges require for you to meet them.
Shit.
But think about it. This is what you do. You
I
do it
have not
anyway.
accepted this, obviously. I have
You
not
you do it
encapsulated
anyway.
all of
You
this.
set up a party and then you create yourself a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the nature of being in business, right? If you're a
Mhm.
CEO of a Fortune 500
Mhm.
and you came up with, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go up after this entirely new marketplace, right? We're going to go
Mhm.
after this entire new demographic. You just created a huge problem for your organization that
Mhm.
needs to be resolved by, by your
Mhm.
COO and everybody else. But if you're a business by yourself, you did the same thing. You said, hey, I'm going to sell this particular thing. And it's like, okay, well, how the hell am I going to do that now? That's a problem that you created for yourself. And solving it is being in business.
Oh my god, I just threw myself into the wolves by that comment, and now I'm getting it. Like,
Yeah.
this is what I do. You're right. Like, I create my own problems,
And then you solve them,
and then I
you know?
solve them, then I'm really proud of myself, and then I'm exhausted, and then I do it again.
Yeah. And there's a healthy way of doing that, and there's an unhealthy
Okay,
way of
so
doing it.
let's
Okay.
talk through that.
So the healthy way of doing that is when you create problems. How I say it is problems that are worthy of you, or problems that are worthy of your life, or problems that are worthy of your organization. If you create yourself problems that are not, what you're doing is trying to get out. And you
Okay.
might as well, learn to recognize that.
Okay, give us an example of what that
So
is.
Tristan, somebody who knows you. See,
Aw, T. Thank you. And I'm so sorry for saying we're having this new upgrade and we don't have it figured out and we've already sold it. I'm so sorry.
that's an apology, like 9 years coming, Tristan. So you were asking for an example, right? So here's an example. Again, we're going to start selling a brand new line of products that we don't have a procedure for yet. That's a great problem, right? It generates tons of usable
Anxiety.
solutions. But it generates a lot of usable solutions, right? Like, all of a sudden, now you have an entirely new line of revenue. Now you have an entirely new way of challenging yourself to bring in new lines of revenue, which is the other thing, right? You sort of create a procedure for procedures. And then if you do the other type of problem, right, which is the I can't do that, or I don't know how to do that. Let me see what can I cut from what I'm doing. That
Mhm.
basically they're all like shrinking problems, right? They're
Mhm.
things that just leave you smaller in the end.
Mhm. Mhm.
Those are not going to be the type of problems we're talking
Mhm.
about.
Mhm.
Those are going to be the the type of problems you need to start evaluating
Mhm.
for if it's time to get out, which is absolutely fine. There's
Mhm.
no shame on stopping. There's no shame on switching directions. There's no shame on flipping a Yui, right?
Mhm.
And going an entirely opposite direction of something.
Mhm.
That is another thing that most really good business owners are capable of doing.
Mhm.
They're
Yeah,
kind
there's a
of,
lot of pivoting. There's a
yes,
lot of being comfortable with change. So I kind of want to ask you as we're talking about this, do you think if you are not good with change, do you think you can still be an entrepreneur
I
or
think you
just a different type?
I think you can, but you are going to have to get better at change, right? You're going to have to learn
Mhm.
that skill.
Mhm.
And that's a
Yeah.
cool thing for me because it's a learnable skill. I don't view it as if it's innate thing.
Really?
I feel some people have it, right? But it's a skill just like any others,
Yeah,
right?
you just got to exercise it.
There's people who are like beautiful singers from birth,
Mhm.
but there's people who can learn to be a
Mhm.
significantly
Mhm.
good singer, right? Probably not
Mhm.
quite at the same scale, but they
Mhm.
will still be,
Mhm. Competitive.
competitive.
And you might wanna surround yourself with someone that is more likely to be open to change. That's
Yeah.
why Tristan is a great balance for me because he's like, "Wait a minute. This is all great, but how are we getting that done? And how are, so you if knowing that about yourself. So it's a lot of self-reflection and self-awareness, knowing
100%.
knowing what you're good at, what you're challenged by, and then pulling those people in to balance that out. I think you can do anything.
Good business owners, and this is a known cliche, but good business owners hire smarter, better, faster, more prepared people than themselves,
Yeah, because we're the
right?
dreamers.
Because you're always dreaming up some problems. So you gotta
Damn
surround
it.
yourself with solution makers.
Look at every time
Right?
you say that, I'm just like,
Yeah,
oh,
that hey. Okay, so speaking of that, right? Speaking
yeah.
of building a team and then figuring out procedures and figuring out things, everybody knows what the direction we went with your business is to turn it into a franchise. Okay, why? Why a franchise? What are the benefits of that?
Okay, I'm going to speak candidly. So, the personality that I am, I innately or have learned or whatever to continually extend myself to the next level of uncomfortableness.
Mhm.
It's kind of like when I was asked to be the MC for the NERMA conference this fall. I was like, yes. And then I'm like, what the hell am I thinking? But I know it'll be fine. And I have plenty of time to stress out about it. But I know I have to take on this opportunity. I just know. When I had my little interior design business in Colorado when the girls were small, I said to myself, if I don't try this out and I'm 50 and haven't done it, I will regret that. So I just put myself out there. I just don't know why I do it. But anyway, so that's partly me. Um it's been a goal from day 1 how great this would be. Um it- I've gotten a lot of good feedback from people all around me how scalable our business is. Um I want to give back and empower especially women and intentional men that need to have a life change like we needed and to be able to share that gift. um it is a legacy, though I have no ego around whether my girls want to do it or not.
Mhm.
I could care less. Find your way first. um and obviously I want to build something that can carry me into retirement and can help me live out my balanced life, and give that opportunity to other people. So that's kind of my answer. There's a
Totally.
lot of reasons.
Yeah, and there's also some people be wondering, what about your business makes it franchisable versus other businesses? What would you say is what about yours that makes it franchisable? You already hinted at that.
Yeah, it's very scalable. It's very, we can document every event is in a different location, but it's all pretty much the same. We have we started documenting our procedures long ago, thanks to you when you stepped into our life. And obviously that's made our business better as well, but it's something that's absolutely required if you are even looking at becoming a franchise. Is that the answer you wanted, Martin?
That's the exact answer we wanted. Um, well, what's interesting about it is that procedures and figuring out scalability, duplicability,
Mhm.
it's needed in all businesses.
All
Okay, like
businesses,
all
whether
businesses,
you're thinking of it a
all,
franchise or not,
all
you
businesses
have to.
should figure out that what is it that we need to do, how do we do it, what is the way that we need to repeat every time. uh, and then Tristan is pointing out the exact next point,
Yeah,
which is
Tristan, you
you
just
nailed it.
handed it. You nailed it. Yes.
Because while you want to create procedures for all businesses, when you do it for a business that is fairly obviously scalable like yours, and you do it well, basically what you're documenting is the solutions to all of those problems you created for yourself and the ones that you didn't even create yourself, right? But you basically have documented 16 years of solutions
Mhm.
that now somebody can
Mhm.
buy the shortcut to.
Mhm. And
So
yeah,
it's
and we were
taken you
kinda
this long.
yeah, yeah, and we were kinda talking about that, like, I really could see that during COVID. Like, if we're the franchise and we've got franchisees, during COVID, we were at the helm. We were the mothership that figured out all of the pivoting and how to do drive-through events and how to design the plexiglass. We went through 2 or 3 versions and how to, how to carry the plexiglass, how to get it from the event and how to put it on and how to assemble it and the masks and signage and different things. So yeah, you have a mothership that's already figured out a lot of that stuff. You never end in figuring it out,
Mhm.
but we have the pain and we roll it down the correct answer
That just means you're going to be continually creating more problems for people.
for us. Yeah. Yeah, for us. Yeah, for
Yeah, for
sure.
your people.
For my people. Yeah. Oh, they love it when I do events. And I'm like, what's going on here?
Totally. So what about for this from the side of people who are thinking about maybe starting something? Do
Mhm,
you feel like starting something is a franchise is a valid way to start? Do you think that they should start a bunch of other stuff before going full on a franchise? How do you feel about the
mm,
franchise relationship to the people who are in the
mhm.
pre-start place?
Yeah, that's a good question. Tristan might even have some thoughts on that too.
We gotta get
Um,
we gotta get Tristan in here
yeah,
at some
for
point.
sure. T, come on in. Um, I think that I don't think that there's one right answer. I think that I've talked to people that are in the corporate world and are at a point where they want to just kind of own their flexibility. There's younger people that are trying different things, and I think it's good to try. I mean, I tried different things, right? Little side hustles, as you would maybe call them, and that gives you experience, and it gives you some credibility as far as knowing a little bit about how it is having your own business and taking that on and what the challenges are. So um I think that the people that I've talked to that are interested in a franchise are ones that definitely see the value
Hmm.
in, like, I don't need to go through all the pain. I am happy to have you have gone through all those problems and figured them out and handing it to me and training so I can just get going
Right.
and get going with life. And I wonder if that's an age thing too. I think possibly the younger you are, you're willing to get your hands dirty and make those mistakes and DIY it a little bit more. And I think as you age that or get a little bit older, you're like, no, I don't need that. Like, they've got it figured out. There's a huge value in that.
You start recognizing what is valuable about buying the front of the line pass.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And we all do that, don't we? We love that. We love the ease, and that gets, as you age, I think that gets even more profound.
And Tristan again is correct, saying that you're talking about by definition, in order to be a franchise, you need to be a proven business model, right? So what you're relating to is something that it's been done before, right? So it's
Mhm.
been proven
Mhm.
far beyond the concept level,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
basically you're going to concentrate on execution versus
right.
starting your own thing where you really have to just figure out all the things. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that, right?
Nothing wrong with
There's
that.
nothing wrong
That's
with that.
that's what
But
we did. But
but
yeah.
the why of franchise is that it's a proven
Mhm.
business model.
Mhm. Mhm.
So here we are, right? You sort of went through the thing, and now you're lapping yourself. So
And laughing at myself.
Doing it all over again.
Mhm.
What's difficult about it now? Like what are
Oh,
the differences?
oh. Um, well, it's very vulnerable. I'm putting myself out there again. I'm like, "Here's my baby. Here's what we've done. Do you like it?" Like, I mean, yeah, it's very vulnerable. I have to go through lots of perception changes and things like that. Um, I put off becoming a franchise because I have hit ground zero with being unbalanced, and I didn't want to go back to that. And so it's like, is a franchise, someone just recently said, yeah, a franchise is like starting another business, and I was like, oh,
Mm,
oh my God. Did they tell me that before I started this?
I did.
Um, but the thing is what you've helped me realize, and what is extremely apparent is that I'm not doing it myself. I've got we've got consultants, and I've got a great team of people, Tristan, huge part of it, um, that are helping me with that.
Right.
That it's not all on me. That I've got a great group of people.
Absolutely. And you're gonna do it all over again.
I'm gonna do it all over again. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we gotta start wrapping up.
Yeah. So Martin, so I'm gonna ask you a question.
Yes.
So, what is exciting you today, and what's keeping you up at night?
Ooh. Probably I keep myself up. I don't sleep much. But you know, part of what I do is to take on other people's issues, right? I meet with a bunch of people and they're all at different stages and different challenges. And for the most part, I do well at keeping it concentrated on their conversation, but it's inevitable, right? It's people and you empathize. And if somebody's
Mhm.
going through something, you feel it.
I'm
So
so
I,
sorry you have me as a client, because I
no,
know
I
you're
love it.
talking right at me.
I no, I love it. It's not you. Trust me, you're not the only one going through some stuff. But that's part of what I like about what I do. You know, I at the same time that's very exciting to me. At the same
Yeah,
time, that's
yeah.
what I look forward to.
And you
So
can make an impact.
so getting to the weekend for me is always this great place where I go. Okay, well, I finally get to just be with my kids. I never book anything on weekends,
Mhm.
and then come Monday, I'm actually excited to go meet with people. I want to
Ah,
go talk
so
to
you
people.
fill up enough.
Yes. So
Yeah. And then
it's
so how do you take care of yourself? You're kinda like a therapist. You have all these issues coming at you. Like, how do you take care of you?
well, you basically when you're a therapist of sorts, you need one for yourself, right? So my
Yes.
therapist is my wife. We talk about things all
Yeah,
the time,
yeah,
and then also I separate things, and I respect my schedule more than anything. You know, if I say I'm gonna book out my Wednesday mornings to be with my kids, they are booked out. And regardless of what's going on with everybody else, I am not available. So that
good,
I find very useful. And
good.
then, the recharge part, I it sounds conceited, but I just don't need it that much.
Wow,
You
I'm
know,
so jealous. Yeah,
because I love what I do. I
yeah,
enjoy talking to people and bringing them at least sort of like pointing their head towards the solution they already know, right?
yeah,
I'm a vessel, a dove.
yeah, yeah. You
What about you?
you have
What's
some
keeping you
magic
up?
powers. What's keeping me up? Well, a lot of the personal stuff I'm going through right now, which we could do a whole podcast on, when your life goes to shit personally, how that affects work. And then I'm excited about getting in my convertible, and it's Friday and it's sunny, and that's enough for me. So, we are at the
Good.
top of the hour.
Yeah, we are.
So, stay tuned. We'll be here the first and third Fridays of every month at
Yep.
9 p.m. Perfect time.
In our next episode, we're going to have a great guest. Our next episode, we're going to have Megan Kelly from Formata Social.
Yeah,
She's
she's
the
great.
CEO and co-founder of Formata, and she created that business from scratch. And it's big. It's a good business. It's somebody I recommend, and we're going to be talking to her about what is all of that about. She
Can't
has
wait.
she has plenty of wisdom to share around the journey, and we just can't wait to hear from her.
This is the kind of support I have on my team. Go
Absolutely.
take the rest of the day off. He's not saying that to you, Martin. He's saying that to me.
I'm
He
taking it.
knows he knows what I need.
I'm taking it too. Thanks, Tristan. I
Yeah,
needed
thank
that.
you, T. I needed it as well, even more. Thanks everybody. Happy Friday.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.